The first step is to start getting some experiences with managed code. So if you're working with C#, you're already dealing with managed code. If you moved up to VB.NET, then you're dealing with managed code. And writing managed code is not the wrong thing to do. I mean, Avalon will be supplanting WinForms, but WinForms is more reach than it is rich, right? So it's the reach versus rich thing in some ways as a spectrum, right? You write a ASP.NET thing and deploy it via the browser, that's really reach. You write a WinForms app, you can go down to Win98, I believe. I don't know what they support down to. Avalon's going to be Longhorn only. So writing WinForms is not the wrong thing to do now, and it's going to be using .NET, and you're going to get some experiences there. If you want to prepare yourself for the new presentation capabilities that we're going to be exposing in Longhorn, then you want to use some good design principles to separate a lot of your business logic and a lot of the more sort of less UI intensive parts of your program out into separate modules so that perhaps you can adjust later on and have a new presentation layer on top of your business logic, and that'll probably be easier for you to move into Avalon when that comes along.
Okay. I've had this question from like Reuters, right? They're looking at building an app that'll come out in 18, 24 months. How should they architect their system so that the next round, because that's probably just right before Longhorn's going to ship.
Yeah.
Right? So it's probably.
And that app will still run on Longhorn, just so you know. I mean, this at the PDC, I think it was Hillel got up there and ran an old, what was it, Lotus 123 in a DOS box. I mean, our commitment to making your app still run is only tempered by security. So,
right.
So old apps will still run. So go ahead, but.
Right. So how should they, what are some architectural things, or what are some things that they could do in their planning for the next, because, if they're doing ship cycles every 18 months, they're 2 versions away probably from doing a Longhorn version, right? So in the next version, what should they be doing to sort of prepare their code base for a Longhorn version, 36 months from now?
So what I would say the best thing to do is to separate out your program into the parts that are UI intensive and the parts that are more data intensive or business logic intensive. And when you do that, then you can start moving those UI intensive parts over to Avalon if that's the direction that you want to go. And if you find the features that Avalon's offering compelling, which we hope that you are. Another thing that you can do is that if you have sections of your program, sort of like leaf nodes in your layout that are interesting to you. So, for example, you have a little help pane on the side, or you have a wizard that you bring up. Those are things that you can move over to Avalon when the time comes piecemeal. Okay. So, if you want to start using Avalon, that doesn't mean that you have to rewrite your entire application. You can pick and choose pieces of your application to move over to Avalon. So that means that you could start out and say, I'm just going to write my splash screen in Avalon, right, and the rest of my app is going to be the same old, same old. And then you can move forward and say, I'm going to make my toolbar be, toolbar. I'm going to write a special toolbar in Avalon, and everything else will be the same. Or I have this pane over here which gives you context-sensitive tips as you navigate around a program. So, sort of pick and choose the pieces that you think it would be most exciting to get the benefits of Avalon and Longhorn in, and start thinking about what you want from those. And then when the time comes, you can sort of start transitioning stuff over on a piece-by-piece basis.
Right. If you were a VC in Silicon Valley, how would this change your investing? What are the business opportunities for, what kind of apps do you expect to come out of rebuilding Windows in this way?
I think the prevailing wisdom has been that the fat client is dead and that everything's moving to the web. And I think Avalon and Longhorn in general is Microsoft's stake on the ground, saying that we believe that power on your desktop, locally sitting there doing cool stuff, is here to stay. So whereas, at the height of the dot-com bubble, if you said I wanted to write a new desktop application, everybody would be calling you crazy because you weren't doing dogfood.com.
Right.
Then, this is Microsoft saying that's not crazy, that we're investing on the desktop, and we think that it's a good place to be, and we're hoping that we're going to start a wave of excitement leveraging all these new technologies that we're building. That's not to say that Microsoft Dogs 97 or whatever it was, the old CD multimedia things that we're writing, is going to be the way of the future. We think that connected, internet-aware applications are where it's at, but rich clients that are connected to the internet and that are data-aware, I think, is going to be very exciting. And anybody who's been dealing with the blogosphere and RSS and the whole slew of rich clients around that, I mean, that's a perfect example of somebody writing a rich client that leverages data sources on the network to do interesting things. And we think that there's going to be more and more of that. And I think RSS and blogs are a great first example of a great marriage between standard data and rich Windows-only UI.